Hey guys, Chris here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I had the pleasure of talking to Kelli Brogan. Now, Kelli is a singer, songwriter, performer, and dancer, and she shares some really interesting insights into her music career. There's a lot of wisdom in there. We talk about songwriting, there's some cool stories, and a chance encounter with Olivia Newton-John. Stick around for the whole conversation. I think you'll really like it. So let's check it out. Thanks for joining me today, because I'm really keen to find out more about your story and how you got into music. So just take me back all the way to the beginning. Like, how did you first get into singing and music in general?
Well, basically, my mum took me to a dance class, like many little girls go to. And so I think I was about 2 when she took me along first of all. I'm sure I was not very coordinated at the time, but, I must have enjoyed it. And then from there, I went to a theatrical dance studio a little bit when I got a little bit older. And, we did a lot of song and dance, all of that sort of stuff. And I loved to sing. I had a few singing lessons a little bit at that stage, not a lot, but a little bit, just because I was doing some solos and things like that as part of that. And I'd always enjoyed the singing side of things. And then as I got older, I left the theatrical world and went into ballroom dancing. And so singing just was sort of something that I did coinciding with that. So at one stage, I'd do it outside of that area. I then went and did a talent quest at High Point. They used to have these big High Point talent quests, and there was a number of rounds and things like that. So the first time I went, I didn't get to do very well. I didn't get out of the first round, and a lady said to me, "Oh, look, can you come and, I think, your backing tracks weren't that good. Maybe if you had better backing tracks." She said, "I think you might have done well." I said, "Oh, thank you." And then she said, "My husband does them if ever you're looking for some." I said, "Oh, okay." And then as I talked to her more, she was saying she was a singing teacher and things like that. So I ended up booking in for a lesson just to see how I would go with her. Anyway, long story short, I ended up staying with her for a couple of years. Within 6 months of me starting with her, I went back and did the High Point Talent Quest the following year. And instead of putting me in the junior section, they put me in the adult section because of the cut-off. There was a problem with the cut-off dates and stuff like that. And so I ended up in the adult, and I ended up winning the adult section the following year. And it was funny, actually, because Anthony Kalia got the junior. He won the junior and I won the adult. And even though there's only a couple of years difference in our ages. So that's where that sort of started from. And then I just continued on with singing and stuff. And then I went into ballroom and stopped singing for a while, and then got back into singing, I think more so after I had my brain aneurysm. And I just felt like there was something missing, and so I went back to singing. And then from the singing side of things there, I went and started looking into songwriting and working with bands and that type of thing. And it's led me to where I am now, basically.
Wow. Right back in the beginning, when you started singing at a young age, was there anything, like, what sparked that? Did you see a particular performer or anyone that sort of made you think, I want to do that?
I think for me, music was something in our family we've always had. So we used to laugh because my mum said when I was a kid, she used to put Patsy Cline on in my crib when I was little to help me go to sleep. And so Patsy Cline and country music was big in our family. And so I think that's where my love of the storytelling side of music came from. But the artists that I grew up with that I really loved were people like Barbra Streisand, Whitney Houston, those really big voices and the ones that sort of told stories in their music. And so I think that's where my love of the music came from. The joke in my family was that, I'd open the fridge and I'd do 10 minutes because the spotlight would hit me when I opened the fridge door, which was a bit of a, fun way of saying that I was always performing. But it was just something that I always loved to do, I think.
Wow. And so you at school, did you kind of get into singing through school or anything like that, or was it just? And how did you know that you had a talent for it? I guess, or did you just have a confidence in yourself that this is what I want to pursue, this is what I want to do?
No, when I was younger, my great-grandmother lived with us. And so she would often say, go and sing some songs for me. Or my grandmother would say to me, go and sing some songs for me. And so I knew I could sing. I used to listen to things like Red Faces, New Faces, all of those TV shows, and I'd listen to what the judges would say. And then I would listen to see what I was doing, to see if I was doing something that I needed to change or something that, they would say. And so that was kind of like having extra singing lessons, I suppose. And so I did a lot of that sort of stuff. I did the choir at school, as many girls and guys do that like to sing. So I did that, and I used to get a lot of solos. I went to CRC in Melton for a while, for the first part of my secondary school, and they used to do a concert type thing that was where I can't think what they used to call it, but it was a theatre restaurant. That's what it was. It was a theatre restaurant, so you could
theatre restaurant.
Was there something called a rocker?
It was a theatre restaurant type thing. So you would, the rocker Stedford, we didn't do that much at our school, I must admit. But they had a theatre restaurant where the home ec kids would cook the dinner, and then they'd have people, all the families would come and they could sit and have dinner there, and then kids would entertain. And so I used to always audition for that and have a go at that every year and things like that. So I enjoyed singing, and I think it's just was something that I always loved to do. And then I just, over time, you get better at it, with a few lessons, and I did some training and stuff like that. So, that always helped, and they seemed to always feel like I was doing a good job. So I just, I think that helps as well. And I won a few different talent quests over time, and so that builds your confidence as well. So, it was just, I think, and the fact that I had a dance background as well, performance was always part of it. So I think that helped a lot as well.
So I imagine with your grandma egging you on, telling you to sing to her, and then obviously doing the talent quests and winning, that's got to give you a massive boost to move forward. And that's great to even like at a young age, you've got such determination to fail at something, the talent quest at High Point where you didn't quite make it, but then you found a way to improve and come back and win it. That's amazing. So how did you get into songwriting, and when did you like record your first song, and how did that process come about? How did it work?
Yeah. So, the first time I ever tried songwriting was a big failure in my opinion. So I was in, I think, either year 7 or year 8, and, I was having some guitar lessons at school. You often kids go and have a guitar lesson or a keyboard lesson or something like that at school. And I was having guitar lessons. So I was at home practicing away, and, I can't play like you, Chris, that's for sure. But I was playing a song, and I was trying to make my own song. Anyway, I went to school the next day or whatever, I remember pretty vividly, and I played it. I said, I think I've written a song. And so I wrote it and sang it to her. And she said, oh, look, it's not bad, but really, I don't think it's something you should do. She said, it's not, and she may not have used those words, but for me, I was like, well, I'm no good at it. I really should not do that. So for a long, long time after that, I didn't do any sort of songwriting. I thought, there's lots of artists out there that have fabulous people that write for them, and they just sing those songs. So I thought, that's okay. I could do that. That's okay. No, it's no drama. And, other people can often put into words what you're feeling anyway in a song. So, that's no drama. And then one time, because I'm a school teacher during the day, as they say, and I was at school and we were doing a program called You Can Do It. And the kids were just not very motivated, this particular time with that particular program. And so I was sitting in my classroom writing down all these words that I wanted these kids to know, about, just being able to being resilient and, keep going and trying and aiming for something. And if it doesn't work, have another go and all that sort of stuff that this program was supposed to give them. And I came up with these lyrics for a song and a bit of a melody. And at the time I really was struggling to, I didn't feel like I played instrument, and I still don't feel like I play it really well, but I play it better now than I did then. So I went to a guy that was one of the other teachers who I knew was in a band, and I said to him, look, if I give you a melody, can we try and come up with something for this? I'd love to put a song together just for the kids to, try and motivate them a bit in the school. And he said, yeah, let's do it. So we, played around, went back and forth, and that was probably my first experience of collaborating on a song. And anyway, so when we finished the song, his brother, which I didn't know at the time, is Michael Cristiano, who is, he's quite well known in the industry, and he's played at a lot of big events here in Australia, and he's got a studio. He's the Seekers. He was the producer for the Seekers and all that sort of stuff. So he allowed us to go to his studio and actually record the song, which I've now since put on Spotify because so many kids and that were asking me, oh, we never get to be able to find it. Can you? So I thought, all right, I'll put it on Spotify for them. But yeah, so we did that, and then Michael said to us, actually, it's not a bad song and you should put it in for one of those books that they use in the schools. And we said, oh, well, we'll try. So we applied and we're lucky enough that Publication picked it up, which is a jam book that they use in schools here in Australia, the UK and New Zealand. And they put it in as a graduation song, for motivating kids and things like that. So that was probably the first time that I wrote a song and collaborated. And then even then I sort of went, oh, I don't think it's really something I'm good at. I'm happy to sing songs. I don't know if I'd be able to, I don't know if I'd have enough life experience or enough that I would like to say to people is what I was thinking. So I didn't sort of do it for a while. And then, yeah, when I got into recording my first album, that was actually through someone in Melton, Chris, us both living there growing up there. And I went over to a studio in Melton and just literally to try and put some Christmas songs down because, as your family knows, I, often sing Christmas songs at my mum's house for Christmas lights. And a few people said, oh, can you put a CD, Kelly, that we can maybe buy or something? And I was donating the money to, the Stroke Foundation because my family have history of stroke. And so I was doing that, and this guy said to me, actually, he said, I've got a song that I wouldn't mind having demoed. Would you be willing to put your voice on it? I said, yeah, no problem. So I went back and I did that. And he said to me, why don't we make an album? And I said, well, if you're happy to do that, let's do it. So we did that, and I put down a country album, and that's where my recording experience started. And with him, I did a couple of co-writes to put some other songs together for the actual album. And so that's pretty much what stemmed my journey of songwriting and recording.
Yeah, okay. So that's pretty cool, Kelly. I was just going to ask you, I was just going to take it back to the time when you had won your talent contest at High Point. And before you got into songwriting, did you do a lot of covers gigs, or did you have, so how did you progress from winning that contest?
Yeah, so I did a lot of other little talent quests here and there along the way. And because I was a ballroom dancer, time was not just singing. It was a lot of training and stuff for that. But I did get into down the track a little bit further once I had finished almost finished my competitive career. I got into a band. It was mostly all Maltese guys. And so they used to laugh that I was the only skippy in the band. And so we did a lot of Maltese dinner dance functions and at a lot of sort of big halls and reception centres and things like that. And I got into that through a friend who I'd gone to school with, and we were in a wind symphony to get together. So I used to sing as part of this wind symphony. And he said to me, oh, look, I've got some friends that are in a band and they're looking for a singer. Would you be interested? And I thought, well, every experience is another great experience, whether it be something that you love or hate. You learn from it. You either learn, I really want to do that, or actually, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do something else. So I thought, yeah, why not? I'll give it a go. And I think I was part of the band before the band sort of moved on for about 5 years. And it was a really great experience and doing that. So that was a lot of covers. I learnt a lot of different songs because we did anything from these right through to sort of 80s, 90s sort of stuff. So there was a lot of different types of songs that I did. And it was great because I had only had backing tracks and sort of like that karaoke sort of sound previously, and to be able to work with a live group that we could extend the song, change the song, all that sort of stuff, which I hadn't had that experience before. So that was a really great experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what sort of gigs did you play? Was it like weddings, events, or did you play?
Yeah, so we did a couple of weddings. Yeah, we did a couple of weddings. We did dinner dances. There was some private functions, that type of thing. So it was a lot of fun. And we sort of, the rehearsals were fun too, because you'd get together, you'd have a laugh, you'd have a joke, and that sort of thing. So you have all that camaraderie, and all the families were there and they'd get together. So it was a nice way to, sort of, get to know music and, elements and keys and what I wanted and what I didn't want to sing like. There were certain songs that I had to sing through that I may not have necessarily wanted to do, but people loved them and so I did them. And then there's other stuff that I went, I actually had never thought of singing that and that works and I can do it that way. And so, yeah, I learned a lot from that and really enjoyed it.
It would have been a pretty cool experience, obviously, learning about playing in a band and about sound and all of that sort of stuff. But I know you've done a lot of solo stuff. You've done work for the Good Friday Appeal here. You've done the Anzac Day National Anthem. And you've also opened up for some housing estates here around the place. I was going to ask you a little bit more about the Westlake Housing Estate. You opened up or performed for that?
Yeah. When Westlakes opened, not only did I get to sing at the opening of Westlakes, but I also got to record the jingle for Westlakes as well. At the time, I don't even know how it came about. I think one of the gentlemen who was part of the development team had heard me sing somewhere and knew that I was a local resident, and so had approached. It was actually through my music teacher at school who said to me, "Oh, look, there's this guy that sort of spoke to me, and he said he knew that you went to this school and wanted to get in touch with you. Is it okay if I put him in contact with you?" I said, "Yeah, that's fine." My mum and my family, because I was probably under 18 at that stage. I think I was about 17, so they sort of said, you need to get your mum's permission. I said, yeah, that's all right. So we did all that. So I was lucky enough to do that. And then at they had like a house and land giveaway type thing to open Westlakes. And so I went along to that, and I'd also done some work with Daryl Cotton previously to that. And I was a big fan of Daryl's, and so he was there on the day and, as part of the promotion. And the other person that I was lucky enough to work with that day was Olivia Newton-John, which, is pretty special because of everything that she's been through and all of the amazing work she's done. It was really special to be able to say that I had that connection with her for that very small moment, and I actually got to meet her and talk to her because Daryl knew her. So he said, well, come over and I'll show you and I'll introduce you. So that was a really special moment as part of my community for my hometown to be part of that. And so, yeah, it was great. That was a really special thing to do.
That's amazing. Did she perform on the day at all, or was it?
Well, no, she did a little bit of a sing along, but not a lot. It was more that she was more promoting the actual event and promoting, she drew the raffle for the actual house and land giveaway and got to meet the people and hand over the keys and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, so I sort of opened before she did that. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, what an amazing moment. And to meet someone like that, of that caliber, is amazing. That's great. Yeah, so I guess moving forward into your songwriting career, like what importance do you put on emotions when you're writing a song? Does it have to come from an emotional place for you, or you can just write a song based on a story or a theme?
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, I've just received a new track backing just for some drums and some stuff today from my producer in Sydney, because him and I quite often collaborate that we have on the last couple of songs that I've done. And so I'm getting ready to do a new one. And he said, I've got some ideas. What do you think? I'll send you through a track and have a listen. And he said, and then maybe, if you've got lyrics we can put to it, or if you want to change something and write something new, have a think about it and we'll start. And so for the last few songs that I've released, that's pretty much the path that we've sort of taken. Is we've done a bit of a collaboration, and Chris has put a track down, or some, we've sat together over like pretty much what you and I are doing now, and he'll put through the sound so that I can hear what's going on in his studio, and he'll have a play and he'll say, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Should we change this? And I'll say, what about something like this for a riff, or what about that? And so we do that for the sound, and then I'll go away and think, okay, what would we like here? He might say to me, this particular line pops into my head. Can we put that in? Or do you think that would work? Or something like that. And then off I go and see how I go. And that I've done that for the last two, and possibly that'll be how I'll work for this one. But other time, so that, and then for the last two songs, what I've done is they both were very personal for me. So Woman Inside was very much a self-discovery sort of journey that I put together in words. So it was just sort of personal experience in some ways. And then Dance was more just meant to be a fun, uplifting sort of one, and sort of connect to my I suppose my experience in the past and the last chapter of my life, where I, did both theatrical dance and then went into dance board, or ballroom dancing, as some people prefer to call it. And yeah, so that was where I've put that one. The new one, I'm not quite sure where I'm heading yet, because I've only sort of got it today and sort of thought about it. But I'd like to do something around, just being confident and following your dreams and that type of thing, because I think they're sort of just important things for people to think about in life. And I think a lot of the songs that I try to put together are songs that I have a message perhaps to them, or people can connect with. And I think it's really important for me to be able to connect with the lyrics of the song. And if I can't connect with it, then I can't figure out how an audience is going to respond and connect to it. So for me, it's really important to have either a story or a message involved. And sometimes if it's a ballad, well, then, I probably want something that's quite emotive. Whereas if it's something a bit more uplifting, a bit more fun, bit more dancey, then I would put probably just the message and the tone. I'd be looking more at that than I would something else. So yeah, that's pretty much where it's sort of how it happens in my head. But other times, I'll be sitting on the couch and I keep getting this melody or this line or these couple of lines in my head, and and at first I just think, I wonder what song that is, and then all of a sudden I go, I don't think that is a song. I think I need to write those down somewhere just in case I need them down the track. And so I put them down, or I'll pick up my phone and just speak into it or sing into it, and I sort of hum the melody so that it's all sort of there, so that I don't lose it if I need it down the track. So yeah, that's kind of how I sit with it.
Wow, that's great. So you obviously work closely with a producer. They'll come up with the production of the music, and then you'll typically go away and write lyrics to it. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, so like the one at the moment, for example, it's pretty much just got a beat, a couple of little, sort of backing sort of vocal maybe things or something in there, and that's pretty much it. It's just pretty much a beat and a rhythm, and then I'll sort of listen to that and just sort of play over the top with it, with just singing, just some oohs and ahs, just to see what flows and what feels comfortable. Like, does this melody work? Does that melody work? And then once I've got a sort of a melody happening, sometimes I'll start with, a couple of lines for a verse, or sometimes I'll go, I might just head straight for the hook or the chorus of it and go, what would I want to put there? And then work backwards. So I'll start with that and say, right, that's the main theme of what I'm going to put together. How do I fill out the story, basically? So, it's almost like picking a title and then playing around it. If you're writing a story or something like that, that's kind of where I go from most of the time, but not always. Sometimes, you sort of, I surprise myself and go, oh, wow, that just sort of flowed. And then other times I'm really chugging at it and going, I can't find this line, or I can't find that line. And then sometimes if for example, if I'm working with Chris, or if I was, a couple of my other songs I've worked with other songwriters, I might go back to them and say, look, this is what I've got down. I'm not quite happy with this. What do you think's missing? I don't know whether I've just listened to it too many times, or I'm too emotionally invested in that line and it doesn't work. What do you think? And sometimes I'll come back and go, well, let's just change this, or actually get rid of that line. You don't even need it, and then you listen to it again and go, actually, no, I don't. So yeah. Sometimes you just need an outside, input.
Yeah. I can relate to that with writing songs as well. You get so kind of emotionally invested in the song, and and when you come up with an idea, it's hard to unhear your idea or that phrase in that part of the song, because you've kind of put it there, and it really helps to have other people to bounce ideas off, just to
Definitely.
get out of your own head, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Because, I'm a great believer in nobody knows everything, and you're not a master of everything, and you can't be, well, I don't think. So, it's great to have other people's input, and everybody's got their gifts and what they're really good at. And I, for one, don't profess to be perfect at anything, really. I think you can always learn more and you can always discover more. So, yeah, it's great.
And if you had to describe your musical style, how would you describe it? What sort of genre or style would you call your music?
The genre for my music, actually, people say that to me a lot. What genre are you? And I'm probably hard, because I don't know if I fit a genre all the time. I know when as I said, I created a country album with my first album. Then my second EP that I did when I recorded in America, that was very much probably just an adult contemporary, because it doesn't fit totally into a pop sound or an R&B sound. It sort of just had a bit of a fusion in amongst it. And I went more for the songs that I felt said what I wanted to say at that point in time, I think, more than I actually went for an actual definite genre. So that was sort of different. With the last couple of songs that I've done, I would say Woman Inside is probably a R&B pop fusion in a sense, and Dance was probably a bit of a Latin and dance mix, but still with some R&B sort of vocals in it. So R&B seems to be a style that I tend to blend with a lot, and I think it's just because I love, you know, some of those R&B voices and the quality and the tones of their sound. But yeah, and the new one, you know, at one stage I was sort of thinking it might be a bit of a disco-y sort of sound, but I don't know if I'll go down that path now. So yeah, I think R&B seems to be a flavour that tends to fit through them, but it's probably, as I say, it's either a bit of a modern pop, because I think pop music at the moment has so many the genre mixes in amongst it. I don't think it's pure pop music anymore. Or the other thing I would have to say I'd have to say, well, look, I'm a bit more adult contemporary, you know, because I've got a little bit of different things, because I think sometimes I experiment with not necessarily just one genre, but to go, that's the sound this needs, whether it fits there or it fits there. This is what this song sort of feels I feel like it needs. So, so I don't know if I've answered that question well or not, Chris, but that's kind of where it fits for me. Yeah,
you have. And like being an original artist, how do you balance the creative side of it with the business side of it? How do you focus on the business side, or do you just focus, or do you have a mix of both?
Yeah, look, I'd love to be able to say I had the money to just go, here's the team, you guys do the business side and let me be creative, because I think I'm better at that. I've had to learn in the last 10 years, I think, what the business side is. And I'm a person that, you know, if I can do something, I just want to do it. I don't necessarily want to, you know, discuss payments and money and all that sort of stuff, but you have to, you know, because otherwise you can't keep doing what you're doing. You know, you can't do music for nothing. It costs money to produce it. It costs money to set it out and market it. And then it costs money to produce, you know, if people want CDs or whatever. So because it's costing and costing and costing, at some point you've got to get some of that cost back in order to produce the next stuff. So I had to learn that, because I think, I don't know about yourself, but I find for me, being a creative, I was more mindset of a creative person. I was not the mindset of a business person. And so I had to learn that, yeah, my art does have a value, and that I do have a value, and that I am a brand. And I had to start thinking that way, which was really difficult for me, because it doesn't sort of go with my own personal beliefs and that at some stage. And so I had to relearn to think in a different way. And so I don't think I've changed who I am in order to do that, but I've had to learn, you know, I've had to learn some marketing. I'm sure I could be much better at that, and I'm still learning that side of things. I've had to learn, I had to learn how to put my website together, how to, do Facebook ads or Spotify ads, or, you know, those sorts of things. I've had to learn how to approach people for gigs. I've had to learn how to approach people and negotiate, you know, costing and stuff like that for, you know, depending on if it's this gig or if I'm traveling, and all of that sort of stuff. And, you know, that's tricky, because it's not necessarily something that I've done for any particular job that I've done either. You know, I'm a school teacher, so that's not something we do. We don't negotiate pay, and you don't negotiate those sorts of things. So yeah, there's a lot of that stuff that I've had to learn. And I still don't say I'm really good at it. I think it's a process that I'm still developing. I do tend to, you know, sometimes go and ask other people, what do you think about this? I'll do some research and go, okay, what is the market price for something like that at the moment? You know, how are people dealing with it? I've had some mentors that I've worked with to find out, how do you market? How do you approach those things? And I think in the early parts of when I was working with those people, I may not have been ready for the information, even though I had it all there. I couldn't necessarily put it into practice, because even though I believed they were right and they were doing what they should have been doing and I should have been doing, it sort of went against my philosophies and what I was thinking at the time. And so now, you know, so many years down the track, or a few years down the track, I'm starting to go, okay, that makes sense to me now, because I understand so much more of the business side of it. So now I can start looking at, okay, well, this is what they were telling me to do. That's what I actually need to do. Whereas before, I think subconsciously maybe I was fighting against it, if that makes sense. And so it made it really hard for me to market myself and do things like that. Whereas now it's it's still not easy. I have to still think about it and have to push myself to do it. I'd rather sit in a studio and write or, sing or go and stand on stage. But yeah, it's something that I've had to learn to do.
Yeah. Do you still get nervous when you release a song or perform, or do you just not have that anymore?
Oh no, always. And I think the nerves aren't so much, well, sometimes it's, will people like it? Will people appreciate it from my perspective, or will they have a completely different outlook on it? But you kind of get to a stage where you sort of think, because I used to, there was all this self-doubt when I was younger, is it going to be good enough? Am I going to be good enough? Are we going to be able to do this? Or can I do that? Can I actually achieve that? Now it's more from, not so much from that side of it. Now a lot of it that I do now is more, I believe that I can do these things, and experience tells you that. But now it's more the nerves come from, it's more of, what's the word I'm looking for here? So the nerves for me now is more, keeps me focused. I find the nerves that I get now are nervous as like an excited energy, but it also, I find that when I get nervous, I'm more focused, and I'm more making sure that what I'm wanting to achieve on stage as the performance or for people, it sets me in the right tone, if that makes sense. I'm more focused on the project at hand, rather than, getting nervous and then getting anxious and thinking about all these other things. Rather than that, it's more just, this is what you need to do. And I think I'm more nervous if I haven't had as much rehearsal time as what I would like. If I've had plenty of rehearsal time, then I'm fine. I still do get those little voices in the back of my head. Am I going to be good enough? Are these people going to really like what I'm doing? Because at the end of the day, as a performer, and I think you'd probably be the same, Chris, as a performer, you want your audience to love what you do, because that's what you're there. And it's not for you. You don't want them to love you necessarily, but you want them to feel like they've walked away from that and they've gone, geez, I had a good night. Or, gee, I had a great time. Or, geez, I really enjoyed that. Because as an artist, I think that's all you can really ask for out of an audience, is for them to be enjoying what you've done, appreciating what you've done, but then having that connection with them that they walk away and go, I loved that. That was great. And I'd be really disappointed. I think it'd be more that they walked away and went, geez, that was, I just wasted a night. I can't get that back. That's the sort of thing that sits in my head more. I think that's where my nerves come from more than anything else.
Yeah. Look, I'm the same. I think the misconception is that because we're performers or we're artists that we don't have any nerves, or we just don't feel it. But I constantly feel it, and it's you're right. We're essentially entertainers. We're there to entertain. So you want to do the job well. You want people to feel entertained and have a good experience, just like you said. So yeah, it's really important. I'm genuinely curious about this. Do you have any vocal warm-up routines that you do? I've got a YouTube app that I go to, which is called Vocal Warm-Up. And it's this guy with an accent that sort of says hum, and or whatever. And I go through that. That's pretty much all I do. And I take salt water with me if I'm having a rough night to gargle. But do you have any routines you recommend, or what do you do?
Yeah, look, when I was younger and I was having singer lessons, it was a lot of scales and things like that. But, sometimes you don't have the time for scales before you're heading to somewhere. The biggest thing for me is I always make sure that my throat and the muscles in my throat and the muscles in my face are as relaxed as possible. So mine is a lot of, I'll do a couple, I'll show you if you like, but putting air through my mouth and through, this will be interesting, be very, some of the face pulling may not, might scare people. But yeah, so one, for example, to loosen up my lips and around my jaw and stuff, is I'll go literally like a little kid annoying somebody, but it just loosens it up. Yeah, literally just blowing and trying to use the air as much as possible and as controlled as possible. So that's one that I do. Another one is I literally just yawn and open my mouth and my jaw as much as I possibly can. So it's, I'm sorry about the facial expressions, but it's really...
This is all good information.
Getting all of that sort of stuff happening. So that's another one. And another one I do is I'll put my head back and I'll actually close my mouth and then open my mouth and close my mouth, because it'll loosen all the muscles through here. So if you put your head back and you just feel those muscles loosening through here. So I quite often do that as well.
Interesting.
Because I found I got a really bad cough one time and I couldn't sing for about 8 or 9 months, not to the extent that I wanted to. And I really panicked because I thought, oh my God, it's gone. And, it was one of the times when I realized how much I rely on having it, and I used to think sometimes maybe I just don't need to sing. It's not a big deal. But then when you lose it, you go, no, I really need that. That's something I need in my life. And so one of the things was when I had the cough, I was really tight through here and I just could not get rid of the tension. And so I went and got some, just those sort of exercises, loosening up, had massage done and things like that to loosen that area. And I also sometimes, probably because I talk so much, which I think would be a shock to anybody who's listening, going on, well, how much I've had to say today. But I often have to go and have my jaw adjusted because sometimes I put it out of whack, it moves. And so that can sometimes, it just plays up with me being able to vocally do what I want to do because there's too much tension in that area. So a lot of what I do is that first and foremost. And then for anybody who's seen The Little Mermaid, I love the part in The Little Mermaid where she's about to give her voice over to Ursula. And so she goes, oh, I literally just do that up and down all the time. Wow. Just starting at different keys. And that's how I warm up. Because to me, that's giving my voice not just a scale, but it's just allowing me to free. And sometimes I'll go softer and I'll go louder and that for me works. And if I'm nervous or anything, that I can pull off because I don't have to think about it. It's not a song. It's not a scale. It's just something that takes me back to being a kid watching a movie, basically. I know that sounds silly, but that's what works for me. So.
That's great. Yeah. And I'm always curious about what people's vocal routines are and how they do it. Because there's a lot of singers that can sing sort of gig after gig after gig. And I'm sort of in a transition at the moment. I can sing a few gigs in a row, but I'm probably, two or three in a weekend. I'm not so great, but, always looking for tips. But, so just going back to music. So you mentioned Whitney Houston, you mentioned, I don't think you mentioned Celine Dion, but I think you have mentioned to me that that's one of your inspirations.
I do love Celine.
Yeah. Is it like, who do you look up to today as in maybe a role model or someone that you'd want to replicate a career like them? But also what other artists inspire you?
Yeah. At the moment, some of the newer stuff that I've been putting out, I've been trying to, bring out stuff that's probably stuff that the kids at my work would listen to because, they often, Kel, can we listen to your new song? And I often think to myself, don't know if it's really geared towards you guys, it's not necessarily the message in it's not, but it's not my earlier stuff was probably not stuff that I would have thought kids their age would listen to. So some of the stuff that I've been putting out more now, I think has a little bit more of a pop flair for the modern era. So some of the stuff that I listen to is sort of like Dua Lipa. She's out here at the moment, but I do listen to her sort of things because I love some of the tones that she has. I love some of the rhythms that she has in her music. But I do, the classic people that I still listen to is Celine Dion. I will always listen to Celine. I was lucky enough to see Celine twice in 1 year. I got to see her in Vegas and then I got to see her in Melbourne in the 1 year. And so to me, that was just my ultimate. But yeah, I love, her stuff and I think I will always love her stuff. Whitney Houston, I loved just because I felt like I loved all those big power ballads. And when I was a kid, they were the things that I loved to sing. And I think because I felt like I was good at them, my voice could do them. So that's where I tended to stick all the time. And then I had to learn to branch out because you can't just sing power ballads for the rest of your life. Whitney Houston didn't do that and neither did Celine, but for me, that was all they sang as far as I was concerned when I was younger. So I think they are people that I do listen to. I still will listen to and I still love to listen to Reba McEntire and Faith Hill, Trisha Yearwood in the country scene, because I think their voices just, Keith Urban as well, because I love that storytelling. I love the way they tell a story and it's not just singing. It's almost like they're having a conversation with you. And so for me, that's, I think really important. I feel like I want to be able to talk to my audience. And so there's some of the artists that I listen to. Christina Aguilera is another one that I love. And I think I love the way she just belts out a song. And the other person I love is Jennifer Hudson. I love her stuff as well. She just has a voice that I just sit there and go, wow. She just seems to be able to pull anything out. And, and like if you're looking at some other artists that are older artists, someone like Tom Jones, he's just had a career that he's just been able to keep reinventing himself and reproducing stuff. And, even at the age he is now, his vocal cords they still have just that smooth sound that, you could listen to all day. So if there's anyone looking at the career wise, I think if I was going to emulate anything, it would just be being able to have that longevity, to be able to look after your voice and, use it for as long as possible. Because, as I said, when you do lose something that you love to do, it's devastating. So,
Absolutely.
I can imagine years down the track not being able to do it, it would be hard.
Yeah, I mean, I've never lost my voice for that amount of time. I think you said 6 to 9 months, was it? I think. But
yeah, like I could talk and I could sing, but I had such a small amount of
range.
I had to really think about, can I sing this song on stage? Can I sing that song?
Yeah.
Can I sing that song? No, I'll have to do it this way, or I'll have to change it and do it that way, because I just couldn't get my upper register. I just couldn't get it back for a while. And then my vocal cords had been so swollen that they just wouldn't do what I wanted them to do.
Wow. Yeah. And I know what you mean about it being scary. I mean, I've had situations like that where you lose your voice for a week or two or whatever it is, and you just sort of, you feel lost. You feel like, oh God, and you really value it. So yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast today, Kelli. I was going to tell the audience to go to kellibrogan.com, Kelli with an I, kellibrogan.com,
yes.
and everything's on there. But what are your social handles where people can contact you or get in touch with you?
So I'm on Instagram and on Facebook. I think my Facebook one is Kelli Brogan Music Official, and I remember my Instagram one. I think it's something similar to that, to be honest. I'm terrible with some of those, what the actual names are. But if you look up Kelli Brogan, you'll generally see this face, and you'll find me pretty pretty clearly. And also I'm also on all the streaming platforms, so you can go and stream my music on, Spotify, Apple Music, any of those. What are they, 64 different places or 70 places there are now that you can go to stream music. Yeah, it's just about, I think there's more streaming than there is anything else these days. So any of those places you'll find my music, and YouTube as well, both YouTube Music and YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that has a few videos on there. I'm trying to get a few more behind the scenes sort of videos up for people to be able to see. So so that's always another place to find me as well.
Thanks for coming on, and everybody go check out Kelli's music. And thanks, Kelli. We'll see you again soon. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.